On the broadcast tonight, finally a decision on tax breaks for homebuyers in this country. The Korean government says it will lower the acquisition tax rate for home purchases in an attempt to revive the flagging real estate market in Korea. Japanese Prime Minister Shinzo Abe's ruling coalition scores a decisive victory in the country's upper house election on Sunday, giving Abe a stronger mandate for his prescription for reviving the stagnant economy and his nationalist goals. And South and North Korean officials meet in the shuttered inter-Korean Kaesong Industrial Complex for the 5th time this month to iron out their differences in their plans for how and when to restart operations at the joint factory zone in the North Korean border town. Will we finally see the two sides bridge the gap? This is Early Edition at 6. It is 5 a.m. in New York, 10 in London, and 6 on a Monday evening here in Seoul. Welcome to Early Edition at 6. I'm Moon Kwon-young.
And I'm Daniel Che. Thank you for tuning in. We begin with some good news for Koreans who are looking to move out of 전세 or 월세 for a change.
That is correct. Tax breaks for home buyers. The Korean government has decided to lower acquisition tax rates on home purchases in a bid to stimulate the nation's sluggish real estate market. In a joint press release unveiled by Korea's Finance, Land and Public Administration Ministries on Monday, the government said it will finalize its stance on when and by how much it will lower the acquisition tax rates for home purchases by the end of next month. Now, the announcement comes amidst a brewing dispute among the three government ministries on whether to extend the property tax breaks that expired at the end of last month. The Korean government currently levies a 2% tax on houses valued at around $800,000 or less, and a 4% tax on houses priced above that. Turning now to the ongoing hunt for the missing transcript of the 2007 summit between the late former President Roh Moo-hyun and then North Korean leader Kim Jong-il. Officials spent Monday morning looking for it, all of today actually, but came up empty-handed once again. Our Oh Jin-ju has the details.
4 representatives from the ruling and opposition parties paid another visit to the National Archives of Korea on Monday morning in a last-ditch effort to find the original transcript of the 2007 Inter-Korean Summit. But the result was disappointing. They failed to find the document again. The transcript was discovered missing last week, so both parties agreed to spend 4 days searching for it and report the final results to the National Assembly Steering Committee on Monday afternoon. Now, with the transcript still nowhere to be found, a fierce clash between the ruling and opposition parties is expected to erupt over which administration should be held responsible for the missing document. The Saenuri Party claims the Liberal No administration destroyed the transcript, while the opposition has raised the possibility that the succeeding Lee Myung-bak administration got its hands on the document. The main opposition Democratic United Party claims that someone during the Lee Myung-bak era broke into the computer network system used at the presidential office of Cheongwade during the No administration. Both parties want the transcript to settle a dispute over whether President No suggested giving up the de facto maritime border with North Korea in the West Sea, the Northern Limit Line, during the 2007 Inter-Korean Summit. Political experts speculate that prosecutors could open an investigation into the matter should the dispute between the parties spiral out of control. Oh Jin-ju, Arirang News.
And over in Japan, Prime Minister Shinzo Abe won a decisive victory in that country's upper house elections on Sunday, setting the stage for Japan's first stable government since 2006. However, critics worry the hawkish leader will pursue his nationalist agenda rather than focusing on the economy. Our Kim Young-gil has this report.
After 7 months in office, Japanese Prime Minister Shinzo Abe and his coalition government won a strong majority in Sunday's upper house elections. Abe's Liberal Democratic Party won 65 seats, the highest number since the upper house election in 2001. Abe's coalition partner New Komeito secured 11 seats. Every 3 years, half the members of the 242-seat chamber stand for election. With Sunday's victory, LDP alone doesn't control the upper house, but the coalition now has a comfortable majority of 135 seats.
We received overwhelming support from the people for our policies of improving the economy and creating stable politics. We will continue going forward with our brand of politics.
In a victory speech Sunday, Abe said he would focus on fixing the world's third biggest economy through his economic policy dubbed Abenomics, which mixes hyper-easy monetary policy and increased government spending. The LDP is also calling for revisions to the constitution supported by the Japan Restoration Party and your party.
As for changing the constitution, we will change all the clauses all at once, but we'll do it slowly in stages and let the people vote on it.
However, critics also worry Abe may shift his focus to a nationalist agenda that has long been central to his ideology, such as revising the country's post-war pacifist constitution and recasting Tokyo's wartime history with a less apologetic tone. Such a shift may further strain ties with Korea and China, where bitter memories of Japan's past atrocities run deep. Since Abe's coalition government came to power last December, Japan's economy has grown by 4% and the stock market by more than 40%. 지명길, Arirang News.
Government officials and experts from South Korea, the U.S. and China have gathered to seek solutions to the North Korean nuclear issue in Seoul on this Monday. Lee Do-hoon, the head of the North Korean Nuclear Affairs Bureau at Seoul's Foreign Ministry, Robert Rapson, the director for Korean Affairs at the U.S. State Department, and Chen Hai, China's deputy chief of mission to Seoul, are leading the talks behind closed doors.
Participants are expected to discuss denuclearization of the Korean peninsula, and President Park Geun-hye has plans for building trust with North Korea. The South Korean government said that the most important goal of the upcoming talks is to strengthen communication and cooperation among the three countries.
Meanwhile, Panamanian authorities combing through a seized North Korean ship have verified the contents on board.
Aside from the 10,000 tons of sugar that has been causing investigators headaches, 2 fighter jets were found in pieces, along with missile radar systems. Our Kim Ji-yeon has the story.
It's taken them a week, but Panamanian officials on Sunday local time confirmed the contents of the North Korean ship they seized earlier this month. 2 MiG-21 fighter jets originally made by the Soviet Union in the 1950s, and 2 missile radar systems were found on board the Cheoncheongang.
We have also managed to discover 2 radar systems that control the launching of missiles. They are the ones that guide the missile to the target.
Panama President Ricardo Martinelli said that other electric equipment and cables were found as well, but no explosives. The weapons were hidden under thousands of bags of sugar that Cuba says were a donation to the North Korean people. While authorities continue to unload the vessel, Panamanian authorities await the arrival of a United Nations inspections team on August 5th. They will ultimately determine whether North Korea's attempted shipment violated any UN sanctions. The 35 crew members of the seized ship have been detained for attempting to smuggle undeclared military cargo through its jurisdiction. North Korea has asked Panama to release them, but that request has been dismissed. Kim Ji-yeon, Arirang News.
After 3 years of a bloody war, the Korean Armistice Agreement was signed on July 27, 1953. Now, this Saturday marks the 60th anniversary since the ceasefire, and the two Koreas have 2 very different interpretations of the agreement.
And they commemorate the day in very different ways each year. While South Koreans quietly reflect on the conflict each year, North Korea has designated the day as a day of victory. And this year, Pyongyang is getting ready to throw a huge celebration. Kim Yeon-ji reports.
July 27th this year marks the 60th anniversary of the signing of the Armistice Agreement that halted the 3-year-long Korean War. In South Korea, The Korean War is described as the tragedy of fratricidal war, a kind of violence that must never be allowed to take place again. But North Korea celebrates the signing of the armistice agreement as Victory Day. To this day, Pyongyang maintains it successfully resisted the American and South Korean forces, who it says came to sign the armistice agreement holding a white flag. It looks like this year's Victory Day celebrations in North Korea will be especially big. The Voice of Russia reported earlier that Pyongyang sent invitations to the world's major media outlets, including China's Xinhua news agency and CNN. For this rare occasion, with so many foreign journalists in town, some say it's possible North Korean leader Kim Jong-un may offer to give a one-on-one interview during the celebration period. North Korea also says it'll showcase a new version of its Arirang mass games in commemoration of Victory Day. Meanwhile, U.S. President Barack Obama is scheduled to attend a ceremony marking the 60th anniversary of the Korean War Armistice Agreement in Washington this week. A diplomatic source in Washington says President Obama plans to deliver a speech at the Korean War Veterans Memorial on Saturday. South Korean President Park Geun-hye is expected to send a special delegation to the event, which is hosted by the U.S. Department of Defense. If President Obama does attend, he will become the first incumbent U.S. president to take part in a formal ceremony to mark the Korean War Armistice Day. Kim Yeon-ji, Arirang News.
Moving on, President Park Geun-hye says she hopes the two Koreas will come to a, quote, meaningful and sustainable agreement during the inter-Korean working level talks currently underway in Kaesong on this Monday.
Speaking at a meeting with her senior secretaries in the morning, she said the talks should focus not only on the normalization of the Kaesong industrial complex, but also on laying down the foundation for a new relationship between the two Koreas. She added that Pyongyang should guarantee that it will not close the business park again, while also expressing her hope that Pyongyang will come to realize that the creation of a business environment that meets international standards will ultimately benefit both Koreas.
The two Koreas have wrapped up their fifth round of working level talks on the issue of normalizing operations at the shuttered joint factory zone in the north.
Well, for the latest, let's go live to our Unification Ministry correspondent Hwang Sung-hee at the Inter-Korean Dialogue headquarters. So Sung-hee, what's the latest?
Guys, officials from the two Koreas are now in their final round of negotiations for today, and it looks like they won't be able to reach a concrete agreement this time around as well. That means they will have to go on to their sixth round of working level talks for this month as they try to normalize business operations at their jointly run factory zone in the north. Now, many had been expecting today's talks to stretch into the night, with experts saying that some kind of agreement would be reached this time around. Now, this is because the two have shown some progress from their previous meeting, as each had exchanged their revised versions of draft proposals at the beginning of today's talks and continued their negotiations on that basis. But even after 5 meetings, a swift agreement seems far away as the two remain divided on some of the key issues. As you know, Seoul is demanding that Pyongyang provide safeguards against future closures before the business park is reopened, whereas the north is calling for an immediate resumption of operations there. The south is also continuing to push the north to admit that it's at fault for the prolonged suspension of the complex, while also touching upon the idea of opening up the business park to foreign companies. Operations at the factory zone have been suspended for 3 months since the north unilaterally withdrew all North Korean workers amid an escalation of inter-Korean tensions. Now, some had been saying that the fifth round of talks between the two Koreas will be crucial in determining whether business operations at the border town will return to normal or whether the complex will shut down completely. Guys?
All right, thanks Sung-hee for that. That was our Unification Ministry correspondent Hwang Sung-hee with the latest in today's Inter-Korean Dialogue. So South and North Korea, they are trying to reach an agreement now, but they haven't been able to reach an agreement in earlier rounds. They are meeting again on this Monday to negotiate the reopening of the idled Kaesong Industrial Complex. Now, today's working level talks are the fifth round of the contentious issue.
Well, the talks are going, so that's the important thing, and hope springs eternal at the moment. But the talks aren't the only North Korea-related event unfolding before our very eyes. The UN committee is set to probe a North Korean arms ship seized by Panama. And just yesterday, Pyongyang launched a fresh warning of catastrophe if South Korea and the United States push ahead with an annual military drill next month.
So all in all, North Korea seems to be sending out mixed signals to the South and the rest of the world, adding to that the rare move by the North in sending its women's football team to Seoul to play against the South Korean team ahead of the East Asian Cup on Sunday. So what is happening on the Korean Peninsula, and what can we expect in terms of inter-Korean relations on the various fronts in the coming days, weeks, and months?
Well, joining us live to give us some perspective is Dr. Bong Young-sik, Director of Center for Foreign Policy at the Asan Institute for Policy Studies. Dr. Bong, thank you for joining us again.
Good evening.
All right, before we move on any further, let's first talk about the working level talks that is presumably ongoing as we speak, the fifth round on how and when to restart operations at the shuttered joint industrial zone. Now, this is their fifth round of talks, yet there seems to have been little progress in the last four. What are some points that are noteworthy about this round of talks, and what can we expect?
Well, it should be very disappointing to everybody who possess a high hope for groundbreaking development of the inter-Korean dialogue on the resumption of operation of Kaesong Industrial Complex. But I see some positive developments nonetheless. One of the positive signs that I saw was the exchange of proposals, draft proposals between the two delegations about what kind of specific measures that would need to be taken for the resumption of the operation of the industrial complex in Kaesong that would satisfy the expectation of both sides.
Okay, we briefly mentioned, well, sports is always a good way for both sides, diplomacy for both sides, especially when everything is pretty tense. Well, we had the North Korean women's football team coming all the way to South Korea for the East Asian Cup, and they had reasons to celebrate. They won 2-1, I believe, and it was a come-from-behind effort, matter of fact. What do you think North Korea's intentions are in reviving inter-Korean exchange in sports and possibly even in culture in the coming days?
Well, I just learned that the North Korean official media stopped the regular program to report the victory of the women's soccer team. So they are closely following this event. I think this is a North Korean government's intentions to show the world that North Korea would not reject any opportunity to improve the tension on the Korean Peninsula. But I would add that improve the relationship in political arena would lead to improved relationship in other areas, but the opposite may not be always true. One example is the high point of inter-Korean reconciliation when both athlete teams participated in the Sydney Olympic Games in 2000 under the unification flag. But remember that, unfortunately, nothing so substantially important in terms of political reconciliation followed such a nice development in cultural exchange area.
Right. Sports is usually about moments of greatness briskly, and maybe it will not carry out and follow through and affect various.
But at least they won the game, so I think it's.
I guess we made them feel good.
Right.
All right. We're just getting reports that the fifth round of working level talks have been concluded between the two Koreas at the Kaesong Industrial Park. Now, so it concluded. Some had expected it to stretch into the night. Well, it didn't. It came to a close today. What do you think this implies? Is this a good sign or a bad sign?
Well, we need more time to get the bottom of what actually happened in the fifth round of talks. But the fact that the head of the both delegations spent less than 70 minutes for very intensive closed-door negotiation, I think that is a good sign, signaling that neither side has abandoned hope on the other meetings to bear important result, what President Park herself described a meaningful and sustainable result.
And there were some saying that this round of talks would have been critical because the next time they meet, if it's next week, it would be after the date of the armistice agreement, and the way that North Korea celebrates it and how the South perceives it would differ. Probably or maybe standing in the way of this meeting, but hopefully that won't be the case. And speaking of which, July 27th is the day of the armistice agreement. Now, North Korea calls this day the day of victory. On what grounds are they calling it a victorious day?
North Koreans remember July 27th, the day that four parties agreed upon the ceasefire for the Korean War in 1953. As another sign that great leader Kim Il-sung, now eternal president of the Republic, scored another miraculous victory against a formidable imperial power. Well, it's a mythical foundation of the North Korean Republic that great leader Kim Il-sung was a military genius who led the country and Korean people victorious from the unmatched fight against the two most formidable imperial powers in human history. The first victory was General Kim Il-sung defeated Japan's imperial army in the Pacific War and liberate Korea. And the second victory was the Korean War that General Kim Il-sung defeated and drove away the American imperialists.
So they seem to have quite a different textbook, history textbook from the rest of the world. Now, we're also getting reports that a variety of missiles have been mobilized in North Korea in preparation for a huge event or parade on the day on Saturday. Now, the cost is an estimated $150 million US. Now, what can we make out of the North Korea show-off like that?
Well, spending $150 million US for this event, it depends on how you see the benefit of doing so. We remember the North Korean regime did not hesitate to blow away in the north of $950 million US for failed missile launch in last April in celebration of the building of the country as a strong and prosperous country. Amount that was actually enough to feed the entire population for entire year. So what is important for North Korea is to solidify the position of the young leader Kim Jong-un, because celebrating the 60th anniversary of the Victory Day or Armistice Agreement this year is very important to confirm the royal bloodline, the heritage handed from the current leader's grandfather, Kim Il-sung, the great leader, and his father, Kim Jong-il, who succeeded in converting the country as a de facto nuclear state, according to the preamble of North Korea's constitution. So even in the tradition of Confucianism, it is only very important and proper for the grandson to pay due respect for the achievement of his grandfather in 60th year, which is Hwangap in Chinese zodiac, meaning the full cycle of everything.
Well, they certainly know how to play the media game. I heard Kim Jong-un also invited members of press from all over the world to try and set up his own little legacy from here on. We'll see how that turns out when the parade actually begins. Dr. Bong Young-sik, that's all the time we have for today. You are the Director of Foreign Policy at the Asan Institute for Policy Studies. Thank you so much for making time to be here with us today.
You're welcome.
Digging deeper, getting to the bottom of stories that impact your life. Talking with you on air and online. Connecting you with heroes and experts to help you understand the world's most pressing issues. News and current affairs at its best with Moon Gun-young and Daniel Che on Early Edition at 6.
Now shifting gears to the economy, Korean import prices rose by 2 points. So we got rain and lots of it all of today, actually all over the night and early in the morning, but that has come to a halt in the afternoon. And for more updates on the monsoon front, we're now going to go over to our Hannah Kim, and she is standing by at the Arirang Weather Center. Hannah.
Thanks, Kanyang. What a Monday with heavy rainfall. I know it's a lot better in Seoul right now, but we still have a little bit of rain in the Gangwon province. But we expect another 40 to 80 millimeters of rain until tomorrow, and some regions may have up to 150 millimeters of rainfall. Now, approximately 89 houses have been flooded from the rain, and hundreds of people have been displaced from their homes. Torrential landslides have also killed 3 people and have left 1 missing in the Gyeonggi province. 1 man was also caught in a landslide while the other was found dead in a flooded stream. Many highways and roads were also closed off due to the heavy flooding, so please make sure you keep yourselves updated with your local traffic conditions. Now tomorrow we'll have the monsoon front will move down, and we'll have more monsoon rain tomorrow, and the south will continue to experience a dry monsoon with hot and humid weather. So when will this monsoon end? It will extend until the middle of this week, so keep yourselves dry and keep yourselves safe until then. I'm Hannah Kim, and back to you guys.
Thanks, Hannah. And that's all from us. Thank you for watching.
And we'll see you right back here, same time tomorrow evening. Good night.